My daughter. Cut me out of her vacation. She had no idea I own the resort. She was visiting. I was sitting by the window, folding a freshly laundered set of towels, when my phone buzzed. It was a message from my daughter, Ashley. The photo took a moment to load, slow Wi-Fi again. But when it did, I froze. There she was, standing by an infinity pool, cocktail in hand, grinning beside her husband Todd and their two daughters, Olivia and Paige. Behind them, rows of palm trees swayed over what looked like a luxury resort. I stared at the screen for a while. No message, no caption. Just a photo sent to me, like a postcard dropped from a plane, with no explanation or invitation. I called her. Hold on a moment before we move forward. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. And if you're loving these stories, don't forget to hit subscribe. Tomorrow's episode is going to be absolutely mind-blowing. She picked up on the third ring. Hi, Mom. Everything okay? I saw your picture, I said carefully. Looks beautiful. Where are you? Oh, Ashley said as if caught off guard. Just a little weekend getaway. Todd booked it last minute. Nothing fancy. It looks really nice, I said, still staring at the image. Where is it? It's a new place, she answered. Some boutique resort. You probably wouldn't know it. Anyway, I didn't mention it because I knew it would be a lot for you. Traveling? The heat. Figured it was better this way. Better this way. I didn't answer right away. My hand gripped the edge of the kitchen counter. I see. Mom, don't take it the wrong way, she said, voice shifting to that soft, condescending tone she always used when she wanted to shut down a subject. We just thought this trip would be too tiring for you. Besides, it's mostly for the girls. Lots of kids' activities. Of course, I muttered. I ended the call soon after. She didn't ask if I needed anything. Didn't check if I was well. Just said they'd be back by Monday and hung up. I sat at the table in silence. For a long while. It wasn't about the trip, not really. It was the pattern. Birthday dinners skipped. Grandparents' day at school, forgotten. Every holiday, every gathering. Somehow I was always the one left out. But what stuck with me most that day was the name printed on one of the towels draped on a lounge chair in the photo. Veranda Shores. I hadn't heard that name in years. That resort wasn't new, not to me. It used to be a bankrupt coastal inn. My late husband and I helped revive it back in the 90s. He was the one who believed in investing in struggling small businesses. I didn't argue. He handled the paperwork, and I attended the meetings. When he passed, I was left with part ownership through a trust he'd set up years earlier. Something even Ashley never paid attention to. In fact, last I'd heard, the place had been bought out by a larger hospitality group, but it wasn't sold completely. Some shareholders, especially long-term ones like us, retained silent participation. No one cared who we were. We never interfered in management, but we had access, documents, even control over certain rights, if we chose to activate them. Stood up, heart racing a bit. My filing cabinet in the guest bedroom hadn't been opened in a long time. It was filled with old insurance papers, bank statements, and legal documents from a life Ashley never asked about. I opened the drawer labeled Property and started sorting. There it was. Veranda Shores Development Agreement, Shareholder Binder, my name, my husband's name, signed in blue ink, notarized. I flipped through the contract until I found the section I remembered, Founding Shareholder Privileges. It listed lodging rights, advisory status, and shareholder discretion over specific operations, including the right to visit and stay without reservation, and the right to observe without notice. And suddenly, I knew what I was going to do. Didn't call Ashley back. I didn't mention what I'd found. Instead, I booked a one-way bus ticket and packed a small suitcase. I took the shareholder binder, 2 outfits, my medication, and my old sunglasses. I called the resort ahead. Not the public number, but the one listed under the investor portal. Good afternoon, Veranda Shores Executive Desk, the voice answered. My name is Margaret Hale, I said. Shareholder number 0148. I'd Like to reserve a suite for immediate occupancy under discretion clause 5B. Silence. 2 weeks passed, then 3. On the 4th week, I received a letter, handwritten, no return address, but I knew the handwriting. Ashley, the note was short. I don't know what you want from me. I don't know what this was all about. You didn't have to make a point the way you did, but I guess you did. We're leaving things like this? AI folded the paper and placed it in the drawer next to the kitchen phone. No response. 6 weeks later, a package arrived. It was from Olivia. Inside was the bracelet I had given her, and a small note. Mom said I shouldn't keep it, but I liked. It's sorry if that's weird. Thanks for giving it to me. Olivia. I placed the bracelet in a bowl on the entry table. I didn't wear it. I didn't hide it either. It stayed there. Like everything else I'd earned. I didn't need Ashley to apologize. Didn't need her to understand. What I needed was distance, and I had it now, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. She had made her choices. I made mine. And the next time she decides to book a luxury vacation, she'll have to do it like everyone else, as a guest, not as someone entitled to what she never built, not as someone who looks through people as if they're invisible. Because now she knows. She looked me in the face and finally saw the person she thought she'd left behind. She finally muttered, "No, Ashley, you already made it that way. I just stopped playing along. I picked up my book again. Have a nice afternoon." She stood there for a moment, then turned and walked away. I stayed there until sunset. Didn't cry. I didn't smile. I didn't feel vindicated. I just sat. Because finally, after everything, she saw me. And for the first time in years, she had to stand there and face the fact that I never stopped existing. Ashley didn't speak to me again for the rest of the day. I saw her once more later that night, by the fire pit near the beach lounge. She was sitting stiffly in one of the wicker chairs, arms crossed, while Todd stood nearby finishing a drink. They weren't talking. The girls were already in the room, probably on their tablets, unattended as usual. She didn't look over. Didn't approach her. I stayed on the far end of the deck, sipping tea from a ceramic mug, and left before they did. The next morning, I requested a brief meeting with Mr. Whitman. We met in one of the shareholder offices. It was quiet, neat. The windows faced the ocean. I stood, he sat. "I'm checking out tomorrow," I said. "But before I do, I want one last thing documented." Of course. I handed him a printed memo, signed by me. It stated that, effective immediately, guest Ashley Cartwright, along with her immediate family, was no longer eligible for complimentary upgrades, access to restricted resort privileges, or invitation to shareholder-sponsored benefits. Future stays would be treated as regular guest bookings, no preferred rates, no additional perks. Mr. Whitman didn't question it. "I understand," he said, folding the paper neatly. "This doesn't need to be announced, just filed. It will be discreet." Good. I didn't explain myself further. He didn't ask. Afterward, I walked back to my room. The hallway was empty. The morning crowd hadn't come down yet. It was quiet. I passed the family photo in the hallway one last time. Ashley's name wasn't in it, neither was Todd's, but mine was. Still there. Clean. Clear. I didn't pause. Later that evening, I was in the gift shop picking up a small bracelet for Olivia. Something. Simple, made of wood and stone beads, like the kind she used to make in summer camps when she was younger. She walked in while I was at the register. She froze when she saw me. I handed the bracelet to the cashier, paid, and turned. "Hi," I said. Olivia hesitated. "Hi, Grandma?" I nodded. "That's right." She looked unsure. She hadn't seen me properly all week. I'd watched her from a distance, swimming, reading, laughing, but we hadn't spoken once. "I got this for you," I said, holding out the small velvet pouch. "You don't have to take it if you don't want to." She stepped forward slowly and accepted it. "Thanks," she said, staring at the floor, then looked up. "Are you really staying here? Like, working here?" I shook my head. "No, I helped build it." She didn't ask what that meant. She just said, It's nice. Then left the store. The following morning, I checked out. No scene. No drama. I rolled my own suitcase through the lobby and stopped to leave a handwritten thank you note for the staff at the front desk. I included Raphael's name and the young server who brought my room service meals. I didn't mention Ashley or Todd. They didn't need to be in that part of the story. Outside, the shuttle was already waiting. As I stepped into it, I saw Ashley standing near the main entrance with her phone in one hand and her other hand resting on Todd's arm. She was talking to the concierge, gesturing at her reservation file, looking irritated. She saw me get into the shuttle. Her face went still. She didn't wave. Neither did I. But for once, she didn't look away. She watched the door close, and I watched her disappear behind the tinted glass. Back home, my house was exactly as I left it. Clean, quiet, predictable. The garden needed trimming. The mail had piled up, but everything was intact. I unpacked slowly. I hung up the clothes I didn't wear. I returned my suitcase to the closet, and then I sat down at the kitchen table with a pen and paper, not to write Ashley, not to explain anything, but to make changes. I reviewed my own estate documents, my trust, my medical power of attorney, my will. I removed her name from all responsibilities, no anger, just practicality. If she ever needed to know where I stood, this was it. Looked past me, then it happened. Her eyes flicked to the photo and stopped. It wasn't immediate. She didn't gasp or freeze, but I saw her expression shift. Slight confusion, then narrowing of her eyes. She leaned forward slightly and read the caption. Her lips moved as she read the names. She read my name out loud. Quiet, but not whispering. Margaret Hale. I didn't move. She looked up at the photo again. Her eyes darted between the faces. She looked at my husband, then at me in person. Still, nothing. I was standing right in front of her, and still, nothing. She turned and walked away without a word. I didn't follow her. I sat down in one of the chairs in the corridor and waited. 10 minutes later, I saw Todd walking from the direction of the concierge desk. He stopped near the same photo, looked at it, really looked this time, and I saw it on his face. Recognition. He stared at the image and then looked over his shoulder. His eyes scanned the hallway. Then they landed on me. We made eye contact. He stared, not blinking. No smile, no confusion this time. He knew. He didn't say a word, just nodded once, small, quick, and walked off toward the restaurant. An hour later, Mr. Whitman called again. Just to inform you, he said, Mrs. Cartwright requested a meeting regarding resort management. She's asking about the possibility of partnering with us for promotional content. Influencer packages, she called it. What did you tell her? I said we'd consider the request and that I'd forward it to the shareholder board. I waited a moment. And you told her nothing else? Nothing. But she asked who handles board approvals. I said decisions are made by long-term founding investors. She'll try to find out more. I know. By mid-afternoon, I decided I was done waiting. I went to the pool deck, not to spy, not to sit in the corner. I brought a book. I sat in the shade near the bar area. I ordered a lemonade and pretended to read. I knew they'd come. It was always around 3 p.m. when Ashley brought the girls down for snacks. Sure enough, at 3:07 p.m. there they were. Ashley had on a new swimsuit. Todd followed her, carrying the towels. Olivia and Paige were already fighting over a plastic float. Ashley stopped halfway to their chairs. She looked at me, full eye contact, then turned to Todd. I couldn't hear her, but I could read lips well enough. She said, "That woman is everywhere." Todd didn't answer. Ashley turned again, and this time her eyes narrowed. She walked straight toward me. "Hi," she said, polite, sharp. I looked up. "Yes? I'm sorry to bother you, but do I know you?" I closed the book slowly, placed it on the small side table. "No," I said. "I don't believe we've met." She hesitated. "Are you? Are you here with someone?" No. She nodded. Once, awkwardly. It's just, you seem familiar. I didn't reply. She looked like she was struggling, trying to place me. It was bothering her. Then, your name wouldn't happen to be Hale, would it? Yes. Margaret Hale. Her face changed completely. You're the woman from the photo, she said slowly. In the hallway. Yes. You're one of the investors? One of the founders, I corrected. She looked like someone had pulled the floor out from under her. I'm sorry, she said again. You didn't recognize me, I said. She went silent. Even when I was sitting 10 feet from you at lunch, or when I walked past your table, or when I stood in the hallway, Ashley swallowed. I didn't know. No. You didn't bother to look. There was no anger in my voice, no raised tone. I just told her what was true. She blinked rapidly. Why didn't you say something? Why would I? You're my mother. I used to be, I said. But for the past few years, I've been just the woman you occasionally text when you want something. That's not fair, she said quickly. You chose to distance yourself. No, Ashley, I said. You distanced me. You stopped inviting me. You stopped visiting. You booked this trip and didn't even tell me. And now you're surprised that I'm here because you thought I didn't belong in a place like this. She didn't say anything. I don't need your approval, I said. And I don't need your permission to exist in spaces you think are above me. She turned red. Whether from embarrassment or anger, I wasn't sure. You're making this more dramatic than it needs to be. Then, nothing. She turned back to Olivia. Don't stare. Eat your lunch. That was it. She didn't recognize me. She looked right at my face, into my eyes, and didn't even hesitate. Not a flicker of doubt, not a hint of discomfort. I didn't look away. I kept eating, slow and steady. I finished my iced tea. I paid the bill. And when I stood to leave, I walked directly past their table. Still nothing. Back in my suite, I sat on the balcony. The ocean was calm. The breeze had picked up. Somewhere below, I heard children playing, the splash of water, a man calling for his son. I tried to remember the last time Ashley and I went anywhere together. It had been years. Her last invitation, to me, if you could call it that, was for a school fundraiser. She needed help setting up. Not because she wanted to spend time with me, but because she needed an extra pair of hands. I remember bringing all the paper plates and napkins. I remember waiting for her to introduce me to the other mothers. She never did. I stood there for 20 minutes, folding chairs, listening to Ashley laugh with women who had no idea I was her mother. Later that night, when I asked why she hadn't said anything, she shrugged. You're not exactly fun to talk about, she said, and that was it. That evening, I didn't go to dinner. I sent a message to the kitchen and had a tray brought up. Around 8:00 p.m., there was a knock. I opened the door and found a staff member holding the tray. She looked young. Early. 20s. A little nervous. Good evening, Mrs. Hale. Your dinner. Thank you. She hesitated, then said, Can I ask you something? I nodded. That woman downstairs, the one with the sunglasses and the husband who keeps yelling at the concierge, is she really your daughter? I blinked. You're not the only one who's noticed, she added. I didn't answer right away. Finally, I said, Yes, her name is Ashley Cartwright. The girl nodded. Thought so. The resemblance is small, but it's there. She doesn't seem to know. She doesn't, I said. And I don't plan on telling her. Not yet. The girl smiled, unsure if she should respond. Then she left. I closed the door and locked it, and I stood in that quiet room holding a plate of grilled chicken and rice, thinking about what it meant to raise someone who could look you in the face and not see you. I woke up later than usual. For the first time since I'd arrived, I didn't rush through my morning. I stayed in bed longer than I should have, letting the sun warm the edge of the mattress. I wasn't avoiding anything. I was waiting. Just after 9:30 a.m., my phone rang. It was a short call from Mr. Whitman, the general manager. She saw the picture, he said. Your daughter, in the hallway. What did she say? She asked if it was a coincidence. I told her the photo was part of the original dedication archive. Nothing more. Did she ask about my name? He hesitated. She looked at it for a while. Didn't say anything. That was enough for me. Around noon, I walked down to the main floor. I didn't take the elevator. I wanted the time to think. Every step was slow. Not because I was tired, but because something inside me had shifted. I'd been staying in the background long enough. When I reached the hallway, the area was empty. The morning crowd had moved to the beach and the lunch shift was still preparing. There, it was. The photo. Mounted cleanly between two pillars, lit softly from above. The caption was clear. It hadn't changed overnight. No one had removed it or scratched it or hidden it behind a fake plant. Margaret Hale, second from the left, next to my husband. I stood in front of it quietly, staring at my own face. That version of me looked younger, obviously, but more than that, there was a certainty in her expression I hadn't felt in years, maybe decades. That was the woman who made decisions, the one who signed contracts, the one who ran logistics when her husband was recovering from surgery but still refused to slow down. That was the woman Ashley had grown up with but never really bothered to understand. Then I heard the voice. Excuse me. Could you move a little? I turned. Ashley stood behind me. She was wearing a loose linen top, sunglasses on her head, her hair pulled back in a casual knot. Her tone wasn't rude, but it was impatient. She wanted to take a photo in the hallway mirror nearby, and I was in the way. I didn't say anything. She squinted. Ashley Cartwright, July 3rd, requested tour of historic wing. That wing was closed to the public. It was part of the old original building, now used for shareholder functions and administrative events, but the concierge had noted the request. Ashley had seen the old photographs on the wall, the ones my husband had once approved. She must have been curious. She didn't know she was walking through a place built in part by her parents. She didn't recognize her own mother's last name. She didn't connect Hale with Mom, because to her, Margaret Hale was just someone who stayed behind, who stayed out of the way. Until now. I left the library without signing out. I didn't need to anymore. Whatever came next, it wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about recognition. It was about truth. And whether Ashley wanted to see it or not, she was standing in it. She just hadn't looked up yet. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. It wasn't the noise or the light that stirred me. It was something else. A pressure in my chest that had been building slowly since the moment I saw that first photo of Ashley by the pool. I sat at the edge of the bed for a long time, staring at the floor. My slippers were exactly where I'd left them. The room was spotless. The air smelled like lemongrass, just like it used to when my husband and I stayed here 2 decades ago. At 6:15 a.m., I was already dressed and downstairs in the executive lounge. I asked Raphael if I could have breakfast there instead of at the restaurant. He nodded and brought me a small tray, toast, poached eggs, and coffee. Would you like the newspaper, Mrs. Hale? No, thank you. I ate in silence, watching the pool through the large tinted windows. The deck was still empty, just the early crew arranging lounge chairs, checking towels, smoothing the sand in the play area. In a few hours, Ashley and Todd would come down again, complaining about the menu or the humidity or the lack of cabanas. I wondered if Ashley would even notice the new family photo being mounted that morning in the hallway behind the lobby. The photo wasn't large, but it was framed in the same style as the rest, matte black, white border, thin glass. It showed the original investors at the reopening ceremony of Veranda Shores back in 1997. There were 6 of us. My husband and I stood in the center. I had on a navy skirt suit. My hair was shorter then. I remember being nervous, but smiling, for the photographer anyway. The caption read, Founding Partners, Veranda Shores, Coastal Renovation Project, June 1997. My name was there, second from the left, Margaret Hale, not hidden, not omitted, not forgotten. Around midday, I went for a walk through the main resort corridor. I took my time. I knew that around noon, Ashley always passed through that hallway on her way from the spa to the juice bar. It was a pattern by now. I stood near the far end of the gallery, facing one of the abstract paintings on the wall. I wasn't looking at it. I was just standing. And then I heard her. "She's so slow," Ashley whispered behind me. "She's been in front of that wall for 5 minutes. Do people not know how to move anymore?" Todd chuckled. "Come on, juice bar's already packed." They walked past me without hesitation. Ashley's perfume trailed behind her. Something citrusy and expensive. The kind she never wore when she still borrowed mine. Not even a pause. But then, Todd stopped. Only for a second. His eyes passed over the new photo. He didn't say anything. Didn't point. But I saw him squint. Then tilt his head slightly, like something felt familiar. Ashley didn't even look at the wall. She was already scrolling her phone. They turned the corner, and I was alone again. That afternoon, I decided to eat lunch in the same restaurant where Ashley and Todd had their reservation. I didn't ask for a hidden table. I didn't hide behind plants. I didn't watch. From a distance. I asked to be seated 2 tables away from them. Same side, same row. I could see them, and they could see me. At first, Ashley didn't notice. She was busy talking to the girls about what time they could use the pool again and whether she should post the beach photo now or later. Todd was checking the menu with a bored expression, and then Olivia said something. "Hey, Mommy, that lady over there keeps looking at us." Ashley turned. I didn't move. Our eyes met, and I watched it happen. First confusion, then annoyance. The girls were complaining. Something about the Wi-Fi not reaching the pool. They were seated on the opposite side of the restaurant patio. She still hadn't seen me, or maybe she did, and like usual, decided I wasn't worth noticing. I ate slowly. I wasn't eavesdropping. I didn't have to. Ashley's voice carried. She always spoke like she needed the room to agree with her. "I don't understand why they changed our dinner again," she said. "This is the second time. First the terrace, now the garden." "Maybe it was a mistake," Todd said, not looking up. Ashley shook her head. "They keep saying booking conflict, but how many people are really here midweek? It's not even high season." The waiter at her table apologized. Offered complimentary wine. Ashley waved it off. "I'm not here to be flexible. I'm here to relax." I finished my coffee, left a tip, and walked straight past their table. On my way out, I didn't look over. I didn't flinch. And still, nothing. Not a blink of recognition. That afternoon, I visited the property office tucked away on the far end of the resort. The shareholder lounge hadn't changed much. Still, smelled like polished wood and citrus cleaner. I signed the logbook, confirmed my identity, and entered the small meeting room where printed reports were made available every quarter. I flipped through the folders with quiet focus. The resort was doing well. Occupancy rates stable, guest satisfaction high, and operations were profitable. In the list of minor complaints, 2 names appeared. Ashley Cartwright, Suite 421 Todd Cartwright, Suite 421 complaint. Repeated reservation mismanagement. Resolution, guest offered room upgrade, declined. Resort policy enforced, no breach. I closed the folder and placed it back in the cabinet. No action required. That evening, I dressed for dinner. Not because I had plans, but because I knew they did. I wore a long dark green blouse, clean-pressed slacks, and low heels. Nothing fancy, just clean and presentable. The kind of outfit I used to wear to board meetings when my husband was alive and I was the one taking notes at the end of the table. The kind of outfit that makes people pause but not ask questions. I walked past the Garden House restaurant exactly at 6:45 p.m. They were at their table. Ashley, Todd, the girls. Todd was checking his phone again. Ashley looked irritated. The girls were picking at their food. I passed within 10 feet of them. Ashley didn't look up. Or maybe she did, and maybe she saw me. But again, nothing. No double take, no pause. She didn't see me, not because I was invisible, but because she never expected me to be here. That was the difference. The next morning, I found a note under my door. It was hand-delivered, not from the resort, from someone on the staff. It read, "They said you were gone. They don't know you. Stayed. I just wanted to say I remember you, Mrs. Hale. My mother worked in laundry. She used to say you and your husband were the only ones who ever said thank you. LM. There was no name, only initials, but I knew what it meant. People remembered, even if Ashley didn't. Later that day, I went down to the beach for the first time since arriving. I sat on the far end, near the old lifeguard station, where most guests didn't bother to walk. I had a book, but I didn't read. I watched the ocean. And eventually, I watched Ashley again, this time with Todd. They had left the girls with the resort's kids club and walked down the sand for a photo shoot. Ashley had a tripod. She set up her phone and posed in front of the waves, asking Todd to hold her bag and fix her hair. She posed like a model, left hand on her hip, angled smile, chin lifted, then turned, checked the photo, and frowned. Kanashi. You take it again? The light's wrong. I don't know what I'm doing, Todd muttered. This isn't even fun anymore. Ashley didn't hear him. She was already posing again. They looked like strangers playing roles, and yet I had no room to judge. I once smiled for photos like that too, in family vacations, birthday parties, holidays. I had learned a long time ago how to pretend things were fine. After 10 minutes, they packed up and left. Neither of them noticed me, sitting 30 yards away. That night, I sat in the resort library. It was mostly empty. A few couples reading, one man asleep in an armchair. I signed the guest ledger out of habit, and that's when I saw it. The same therapist who had been here for over 15 years recognized my name on the appointment list and gave me a look that said she knew exactly who I was. I remember you, she said gently. You used to come here with your husband. You wore those big straw hats. You always asked for peppermint tea afterward. I nodded. He was a good man, she added. Spoke to us like we mattered. Yes, I said. He was. After the massage, I went back upstairs. I ordered dinner in the room. Grilled fish, steamed vegetables, and a pot of hot tea. I ate slowly while watching television with the volume low. I kept the balcony door open, listening to the distant noise from the pool area where the families were still gathered. I didn't see them again that night, but I knew they were out there. The next morning, I dressed earlier than usual. I wore black pants, a crisp button-down shirt, and sunglasses. I looked like someone's aunt, or maybe an executive, or maybe no one. I walked to the restaurant where they served the breakfast buffet. I timed it carefully, checking the staff. Notes to know when the Cartwrights were scheduled for their table. One of the perks of my position. When I arrived, I was seated on the opposite end of the patio, behind a row of potted palms. I had a full view of their table without being seen. Ashley was already complaining. I said no syrup on her pancakes, she told the waiter. This is the second time. Are you even listening? Todd didn't look up from his phone. Olivia and Paige were already watching YouTube videos on their iPads, not talking to each other. The waiter nodded and took the plate back, apologizing softly. Ashley rolled her eyes and sipped her iced coffee. This place is nice, she said, loud, enough for half the patio to hear. But honestly, the service could be better. Todd muttered something and didn't look up. I watched all of it from behind my palm tree. Eventually, she said something that made my stomach tighten. I can't believe how cheap Grandma used to be about vacations, she said. She'd never stay in a place like this, Todd chuckled. She used to make us stay in those little beach motels. You remember? The kind with the vending machines in the hallway? Ashley laughed. God, yes. So embarrassing. I'm glad the girls will have better memories. And that was it. Just like that, they erased everything. Everything we'd built. Everything I sacrificed. Every trip I saved for. Every time I said no to something for myself so they could have what they needed. They remembered none of it. And yet they were standing right in the middle of it. This resort, this land, this building. My husband and I had helped save it from foreclosure. We fought to keep it open when the banks wanted to shut it down. We funded the renovation that made this luxury possible. They were walking on a floor I had helped pay for, and they didn't even know it. That evening, I made one small change. I met again with Mr. Whitman, privately. "I'd like to move the Cartwrights. Dinner reservation from Ocean Terrace to Garden House," I said. "The Garden House is a bit more casual," he said carefully. "I know. Do you want me to give a reason?" "No," I said. "Just tell them it was a booking conflict. Apologize politely. Offer them a dessert voucher if they complain." "Understood." And that was that. They would never know the reason. They'd never suspect that someone had quietly stepped in and shifted their evening. But I had, and I didn't need them to know. Not yet. At breakfast the next day, I didn't sit behind the potted plants. I sat at a visible table, alone, near the front of the patio, where guests were always welcomed first. It was a table usually reserved for returning VIPs or visiting executives. The waiter who served me didn't hesitate. He recognized me from years ago, not from photographs or newspaper articles. He remembered me because I had once personally thanked him when my husband and I dined here during a hurricane evacuation week. His name was Raphael. He brought my coffee the way I liked it, black, with a side of milk, not stirred in. The Cartwrights arrived 20 minutes later. They didn't notice me. I wasn't surprised. Ashley had her sunglasses on again, the mirrored ones that made it look like she wasn't looking at anything. But she was. She always was. Todd trailed behind her with his laptop bag slung over his shoulder like a status symbol. Then a polite, "Yes, Mrs. Hale, of course. Would you like us to arrange transport from the terminal?" "No, thank you. I'll come on my own." When I arrived the next morning, it was still early, just past 9:30 a.m. The sun was already strong. The valet looked at me and hesitated when he saw I didn't arrive in a fancy car, but he opened the door for me anyway. I walked into the lobby pulling my modest suitcase, wearing a simple beige cardigan and flats. I looked like someone's grandmother lost on her way to a museum, which was exactly what I wanted. The girl at the reception desk gave me a tight smile. "Can I help you?" "Yes," I said calmly. "My name is Margaret Hale. I have a suite reserved. Please don't announce it." She blinked, then looked down at her screen. When she typed in my name, I saw the change in her posture. "Oh, yes, of course. I'm sorry, Mrs. Hale." She stood. "Let me personally escort you." I was taken to a suite on the top floor, far from the family pools, quiet, with a balcony facing the ocean. I set down my bag and went to the balcony looking down. There they were. Ashley, Todd, Olivia, and Paige, laughing, splashing, ordering drinks by the pool. Not a single one of them had even thought to tell me they were coming here, and they had. No idea I had just checked into the owner's suite, with full rights to be here, and more. From the balcony, I watched them. Ashley was laying back on a cushioned lounger in a white swimsuit, her sunglasses pushed high on her head, her face buried in her phone. Todd sat nearby, sipping something pink and fruity, scrolling through his emails like he always did, acting busy even when he wasn't. The girls were in the shallow pool, splashing each other, their laughter sharp and high-pitched. No one looked up. No one scanned the resort like they were waiting for someone. No one mentioned Grandma. That much was clear. I stepped away from the balcony and closed the glass door quietly. There was a note on the table inside the suite. "Welcome back, Mrs. Hale." It was handwritten. Below it, the general manager had signed his name and left his personal number. I opened the minibar, took a bottle of still water, and sat down on the sofa. For a long time, I didn't do anything. I just sat there. Not sad, not angry, just sitting. I wasn't entirely sure why I'd come. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was pride. Maybe I just wanted to look them in the face and see if they'd even recognize me without the usual expectations. Without the title of mom, without the framing of guilt or obligation. Eventually, I picked up the phone and dialed the number from the note. "This is David Whitman," the voice answered. It was firm, polite. "Mr. Whitman, this is Margaret Hale." I'm in Suite 704. I'd like to speak with you privately when you have time. Of course, ma'am. I'll be there in 15 minutes. When he arrived, he was younger than I expected. Mid-40s, maybe. Clean-cut, corporate, but not arrogant. He entered the suite quietly, carrying a leather folder. I wanted to personally thank you for visiting again, he said. Your husband was one of the earliest partners when this place reopened under private capital. I've read his notes. I know the history. Most people don't, I said. Not even my daughter. He didn't respond to that, but he nodded like he understood. I'd like to keep my presence here private, I said. Of course. Your guest profile is already flagged under executive discretion. No alerts, no notifications, not even to other shareholders unless you lift the restriction. Good, I said. There's a family staying here, Ashley Cartwright. Her husband's name is Todd. Yes, he said. The Cartwrights checked in 3 days ago. They're staying in the Coral Suite. They're my family, I said flatly. They don't know I'm here. They also don't know that I'm one of the original shareholders. I'd like it to stay that way. Mr. Whitman gave a measured nod. Understood. There was a pause, and then he said, If I may. Are you sure this is how you want to proceed? I'm sure. He didn't ask anything else. He left the suite with a quiet, respectful bow of the head, and I was alone again. Later that afternoon, I took the back elevator down to the spa level. I avoided the main lobby. I avoided the pool deck. I took long hallways and walked through service doors that most guests didn't notice. Being part owner had its advantages. I booked a massage,